Welcome back to a brand new series of the Food Fight podcast. I'm Matt Eastland.
And I'm Lukxmi Balathasan.
And we're both from EIT Food, Europe's leading innovation community working hard to make the food system more healthy, sustainable and trusted.
On today's episode, it's all about personalized and targeted nutrition, looking at how new technology and thinking could help fine-tune our food choices. As we know, when it comes to our health, one size does not fit all. So how do we work out what is right for us?
And with more and more people getting interested in their own nutrition, there's been a simultaneous rise in brands trying to capitalize, too often with spurious health claims and products that are not quite what they seem. So how do we navigate that?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Matt. Fad diets, health fraud, misinformation around every corner. But that's why we're here today. We invited two guests who can tell us all about how to approach personalized nutrition honestly and healthily.
Joining us online from Barcelona is Emma Eck from the BeYou wellness platform, an app that helps to create healthy habits through personalized nutrition, fitness, and gamification. Hi, Emma. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me.
And also joining us today is Tommy Hayes from Lux Research, a data company who uncover untapped opportunities in all areas of tech. Tommy has a particular interest in personalized nutrition, so I'm really excited to talk to you about this. So thanks for being here, Tommy.
Happy to be here.
Pleasure to have you both on the podcast. So before we get into the details of what you both do, it would be great to just kick off by talking about what personalized nutrition actually is. So Tommy, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, so the way that I see it, personalized nutrition is this, all-encompassing field of kind of the sciences, the technologies that are going to deliver individualized dietary recommendations and products to consumers. So down to the individual personal level. I think that's what's most important to keep in focus when we're talking about personalized nutrition.
And Tommy, is personalized nutrition even a new thing? So if you look back not that far, you've got, let's say, an early primitive form of this where meal plans for bodybuilders, formula milk for babies. So could you give us a little bit of a history of where this has all come from?
Yeah, it's all part of a long-standing evolution, right? I think we've known for some time, our friend Hippocrates, said, let food be thy medicine and let medicine be thy food. So even before we were alive. And then, you had your quote unquote fad diets, Atkins and whatnot that I think were booming in post World War II era. And then now I think it's just the access to data that we have about our own health and kind of the implications in terms of our diet and lifestyle that we can infer from that. That's kind of the evolution that's ongoing right now.
Thanks very much.
And Emma, you work for a startup that's really well in this space. Do you want to add anything in terms of what you think the definition of personalized nutrition is and how that sort of relates to what you do at BeYou?
Yeah, of course. I mean, personalized nutrition, the way we see it at BeYou is that it's kind of one side of achieving total wellness, because at BeYou, we believe in something called the wellness pyramid. And this is the approach that we're having. And this is basically the synergy between three different elements that determine our total energy level. It will be the mental approach at the base of the pyramid. On the sides, we have nutrition and movement. So basically, with this whole holistic approach, we can give the users optimal health, focusing on exactly the movement, nutrition, and emotional well-being, driving healthy behaviors through a combination of gamification, social support, and financial incentives.
Thanks, Emma. And so if I'm somebody and I've just downloaded the BeYou app, how does it actually work? What will I find? What's the great benefit for everybody?
Yeah, basically, the platform that we've created is something designed that allows users to set goals. So it includes a habit tracker, for example, and an online community. So with the platform, we help users to adopt healthier habits, achieve personal goals, and stay committed, and also get rewarded. Because in the end of the day, what is a better motivator than earning rewards? This is how we think about it.
Amazing.
It's the interesting part of that personalized nutrition is because you're really tapping into sort of the psychology of it, right? The behaviors.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's going on that whole human social level.
Yeah, because personalized nutrition, obviously, it's a huge opportunity, but we believe also more in the holistic approach, and the wellness pyramid and seeing like the overview of wellness, total wellness.
What's the wellness pyramid?
So basically it's a pyramid or a triangle, and you have the mental approach at the bottom of the triangle, and on the sides you have the nutrition and movement. So basically the triangle, to what you say is to reach optimal health, is that you have a balance in between all sides of the triangle. So you have the mental approach, the social aspects, the psychological aspects, like you just mentioned, but you also have the movement, the physical activity, and the nutritional part. And everything is in synergy in your life, basically. This is when you reach optimal health. And
then I guess BeYou, you've taken this concept and you've added tech and you made it more accessible to the masses. Exactly.
This is our objective.
Because the model is very much, I can see it being applied to just human behaviors and how we collectively approach food and health. But the coaching is where you get very personalized with the individual.
Exactly. I think this is one of our main USPs, because a lot of the apps today and solutions today, they give you a programming, for example. But this is basically a one-on-one coaching, because you have the coaches there socializing with you and interacting with you and motivating you. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's super useful to know. So it's kind of holistic, and then you're able to go deeper with a personal coach. That's awesome.
Exactly.
But I love the fact that it's still personalized in a holistic way. Yeah. Like it's not saying you need to eat this at this time of day to do this. This is about, mind, body, soul, catered to the individual. Yeah, that's really interesting.
So Tommy, Lux Research covers many different areas of technology, but you've got a particular interest in personalized nutrition, as far as I can tell. So how did you get into it?
Yeah, I mean, both personally and professionally have had, kind of a journey between myself and diet. And so really just kind of grew this interest for, it's interesting with food, we have an infinite number of choices and an infinite number of possible health outcomes. So kind of deconstructing that massive problem and understanding kind of the available tools and technologies that can be used by consumers, including myself, to kind of help make more informed dietary decision making.
Okay, cool. And in terms of Lux Research and what you guys are doing, are there any particular areas within personalized nutrition that you're particularly sort of working on or interested in?
Essentially, the way that we look at it is, for personalized nutrition, there's data input and data output. Data output is the dietary recommendation that you're going to be making to a consumer. And then on the data input, we see kind of 4 buckets of data types that can be used to generate these personalized nutrition recommendations. So we look at the enabling technologies within each of those. So in terms of, physical trait and lifestyle data, what we've eaten, what physical exercise, height, weight, gender, or that rudimentary type of information. And then there's, biomarkers. I think most importantly, the biomarkers within our blood, like nutrient levels, but it could be urine, saliva, you name it. Genetics, how our genes influence the way that we metabolize food. And then the microbiome, really the gut microbiome, and, how does the food that we eat then either kind of increase or decrease certain microbes within our gut, and then what are those gut microbes producing, the metabolites, and how that impacts health. So those are the areas that we're looking at and excited. And this is certainly not mutually exclusive. I think that's kind of the next generation of personalized nutrition, is how do we kind of bring all of those different types of data together? Because you really can't, if you're looking at just one, you're looking at one window into someone's health.
That's really interesting. I think that's what we were chatting to Emma about with BeYou, the holistic approach. So Emma, what you've described with BeYou is sort of a step above, but some of the things that Tommy mentioned, like, is that something, those different 4 areas, is that something BeYou is thinking about incorporating or already incorporates into your app?
I mean, everything is possible for the future. And as a product manager, obviously, this is something that we're looking into to try and see how we can always improve and go above. But yeah, as long as as I explained before, obviously with BeYou, we have the holistic approach. But for future reference, of course, it would be super interesting to go deeper into each of the sides of the pyramids that we have, which is nutrition, movement, and mental health. And of course, inside nutrition, something of these that Tommy mentioned, it would be super interesting to look deeper into and see how we can incorporate it into a digital approach, such as the BeYou app, for example.
Yeah, I could understand the challenge that's in front of Emma, because what I've just painted, is extremely difficult to do, technically speaking, right? To be able to capture and measure and report on someone's biomarkers, genetics, microbiome. But at the end of the day, we personalized nutrition companies need to make a solution that's, affordable and accessible to consumers. So when you start putting all of those things together, your costs are going to go up. So it is a bit of asking for the best of both worlds. But ultimately, though, I think that's the direction that we have to push, and that's where I see things going.
What areas can we personalize our life for? Can it be everything, do you think, going forward? So you go into hospital and you need to recover. Is there going to be like a personalized nutrition, something which is easy and accessible for people at that stage, or maybe at different stages of your life? You get to a certain age and you need different types of nutrition or food intolerances. Will we just be able to go super deep on all of this in the future, do you think?
The future that I see, obviously, technology-wise, super advanced. So I'm seeing someone going into, like for the example that you said, going into a hospital and, putting their finger on a stick that takes the blood, and then they know exactly what kind of nutrition or nutrients that they're missing, or they can get all of the information of this person. This is something that I would see in the future. Maybe not that far away, but yeah, it's super interesting for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say, it totally depends on what time horizon you're working on.
Yeah.
Personalization, especially if I look through the eyes of my clients, which are mainly the large multinational, food and beverage, CPGs and ingredient companies. It's a crawl, walk, run situation in terms of personalization. I think we're actually still we're still in the crawl, maybe getting towards the walk. I used the word evolution before, and kind of step one is, how do I just guide my consumers to kind of existing products, just like that personalized advice and nudge recommendations to existing products. And then the full blown out, when we're in the run stage, that's where we have, biomarkers, genetics, microbiome, and we're going to give you this custom formulated, food or beverage or supplement. It's in that direction, but right now we're still kind of in that crawl to walk phase where we just need to give the right advice, I think, to consumers.
And I think, you both touch upon this as a complex space, and a lot of it is being pushed forward through technology. And in terms of what you were saying, Tommy, who do you think is sort of leading the way right now when it comes to tech and personalized nutrition? Is it startups? And I know you talked about your clients. Are your clients coming to you because they're looking to catch up? Or is the industry leading this space? What are your perspectives on this?
Yeah, it is primarily startup driven, although certainly, if I think about like DSM and Nestle, they've made quite a bit of investment into this space. Just, what was it, a week ago, DSM launched spin-off Hologram Sciences, $100 million. So they are putting a lot of investment. But in terms of some of the tech development and really kind of capturing those, bleeding or leading edge consumers, mainly startup driven. So, the companies that I definitely give the tip of the cap to are ones like BeYou that actually just got acquired recently. I think what they've done well there is create an affordable solution for consumers and simple, measuring blood biomarkers. Another one, Day2, that I think they've really honed in on a very valuable use case in diabetes management and looking, really kind of owning that market, which sure, that's one use case, but that's a very large addressable market right there. So those are definitely some of the companies that I rank kind of higher in my mind.
Amazing. Thanks, Tommy. Can we just, so from some tech then, can we talk about what we were alluded to at the start of the podcast about fads? So the thing we often have to navigate in the food for health space is misinformation. And sadly, there are a lot of products out there which make claims that go against, maybe let's call it sensible science. And it's often just quite confusing to the consumer. So a very broad question, but in this space, how do we distinguish what's good, actually is credible and has real merit, and what's a fad. So, I mean, you both have started to talk about a lot of these already. But so if I throw some examples in: DNA profiling, gut health testing, food intolerances, sleep tracking, hormone tracking, recovery from illness, old age personalization. Are these all things which are either already here or are coming and are going to be something you think are going to play a big role in our lives? Or are there some which you're thinking, actually, that kind of raises a bit of an eyebrow for me, and I'm not sure that that's really credible and more of a fad? Tommy, what do you think?
Yeah, there's I guess a couple of ways to unpack that. I guess first, in terms of what's more established from kind of a scientific body of evidence standpoint, I think in terms of biomarkers and nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics, we have I think enough to be able to create some credible recommendations. In terms of gut health and the microbiome, I think there's still a lot more unknowns in terms of knowns. What does an actual quote unquote good and healthy microbiome look like? And is that the same for me? Is that the same for you? I think that's really kind of the big lingering question. And then an area that I think is very exciting, but is really early days, is more around kind of digital biomarkers. So how do we take information about, stress levels, or, I mean, Emma, with mental health, I don't know if you face challenges there, really being able to accurately read that and draw inferences. And then in terms of, when I'm looking at personalized nutrition companies and kind of vetting their own credibility, I see kind of three different shades. One is kind of doing the data scraping exercise. I mean, looking at the thousands and thousands of studies that are out there on a certain area, and then using, natural language processing to be able to create some model of human health based on that. I don't know. I'm a little questionable about it. Mm-hmm. I think that gets you a lot of data, but not necessarily a lot of insight. And then second would be more of, quite a few companies do this, actually having your own internal team of research scientists, nutritionists that actually manually annotate, all these studies. And then that develops kind of the body of knowledge to create recommendations from. And then the third, which I think is the gold standard, is you've done your own peer-reviewed research to validate your platform. So like I mentioned Day2. So they're an example of a company that's, done a fair bit of that. A study or real world evidence to kind of validate what they're doing. So that's the way I kind of see all of that.
Thanks, Tommy.
And I guess coming back to you, Emma, sort of from that going up again, that holistic view, are there any interesting fads or trends that you hear from your clients that you have to work hard to unpick from BeYou to sort of educate your customer base?
I mean, we work a lot on social media, and on social media, if we go to influencers, for example, there can be a lot of, influencers, they want to post content out there mainly to get engagement, So for many of the influencers, they don't really care, let's say, what kind of content they get. What they care about is that it gets good engagement. So there's a lot of misinformation, let's say, on social media, especially on Instagram, in people becoming influencers, and they call themselves, for example, online coaches or wellness coaches, and they can push any kind of content they want out there without it being controlled. So actually we get a lot of clients that feel really depressed about Instagram and the content that is being said out there, which can be really misleading. So we're kind of fighting against this to try and also bring influencers into our platform to push the good content out there instead of it, and having it more controlled in a way as well. So I guess this is our main challenge that we see.
There's just so much out there to unpick.
Yeah.
And I know personally, I get very confused about what's true, what's actually sound scientific advice versus someone's opinion.
Yeah, it's a real challenge, isn't it? I mean, this is one of the things we're always trying to work on at EIT Food. It's like giving people that sound advice and making sure that people know where to go to for that advice. It's just, how do people distinguish? So you have BeYou obviously have fully vetted coaches and people who are going to give really good, credible advice. But how does somebody online know if they're any good? How do people get clarity on this, I guess I'm trying to say?
Yeah, you need to really know how to look for content and have your own kind of knowledge as well to know what information is misleading and what is not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at some point you need a kind of a human in the loop, so like with BeYou, right, using coaches and whatnot, I think that's the way that helps kind of substantiates and establishes credibility. I mean, and just a feedback loop in general. If you were to sign on to one of these programs, you can pretty quickly see, is this helping or hurting my health, and then decide whether it's worth still paying more money for.
Yeah. Okay. We've all kind of gotten used to, not that far in the past, to like the benchmark for healthy eating, which used to be that kind of eat well plate, eat well guide, make sure you get 5 fruits and veg a day, which was that kind of fairly homogenous, everybody needs to reach this sort of standard. Do you think then, given everything you've been saying about personalized nutrition, that this kind of approach is now completely out of date, or is there still merit to that? Emma, what do you think?
I mean, I think guidelines can still be there, like more or less a generic what is good and what is not. And I think the generic is good for maybe the majority of the people, but depending on your goals and your objectives, and maybe if you have any special health issues, personalized nutrition might be the answer for you. But I think generic guidelines will always be there, and they will always be helpful for people. As I said, majority of the people maybe that doesn't have any health issues, or they're just looking to eat healthy or to be healthy. You say, you should work out 3 times a week, or you should eat 5 vegetables a day. Or I think these will always be there in the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you really can't go wrong with eating 5 fruits and veg a day.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a baseline. What do you think, Tommy?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still plenty of merit there. I mean, as you said, right, like I can't think of any negative outcome of eating 5 fruits or vegetables today, or, eat more fiber, eat less saturated fat. I think those will always stand true. I think for me, I really see personalized nutrition as a vehicle for consumer empowerment and to really kind of take health into their own hands. Because, I mean, if you look at those statistics in terms of diabetes, obesity, hypertension, currently, unfortunately, we're just kind of living and working in a broken system. So we just need to make healthcare that much more proactive as opposed to reactive. So personalized nutrition is an opportunity to do that.
Amazing.
Thanks. That's really interesting.
And there's obviously loads of positives that we're talking about here. I just wonder, are there any not so positives within the personalized nutrition space? So could personalized nutrition make us all go overboard? Where is that health line? If somebody becomes maybe fixated on a particular part of their diet and they become obsessive about it, it becomes too prescriptive for people, and it maybe takes the connection away with food. One of the examples, so Emma, you were talking about before, where you get your maybe DNA profiled and somebody then makes you up a kind of a healthy, nutritious shake, which is apparently matched to what you need, but then does that disconnect you from food in general and kind of take away that whole enjoyment and social aspect of food? Could this go too far, do you think, Tommy?
I mean, it's in the realm of possibilities, but I would consider it a very extreme edge case. That's why I kind of bring up what I've mentioned before, having that feedback loop, especially a human in the loop approach. I think that kind of establishes the guardrails to make sure that someone isn't going to kind of go to that extent.
Great, thank you. And Emma, do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, I think it's very important to have a platform or a human, as Tommy said, in the loop to make sure that it doesn't go overboard. It can actually easily happen, I would say. We see people being obsessed today, or being having issues with nutrition or fitness, or any kind of, again, seeing the whole wellness triangle, that if you take one of the aspects too far, it becomes an obsession. And then you're losing your mental aspect out of the triangle again. So it's about, again, creating the balance in between the 3 aspects of the wellness pyramid. I think this is key. Taking one too far, then it can become an issue.
I think that's been a big takeaway for me so far, that human element, like you've both said.
Yeah.
Making sure there's always a human in the loop to keep everyone grounded and not to get too lost in the details and the science behind all of this. When I think about, nutrition and personalized nutrition, we start thinking about, these new foods, superfoods, and that are coming up, and especially, going to level of microbiome and DNA, with possibly new foods coming into supply chain or more demand for different types of food because they're deemed a superfood. So any thoughts on how the knock-on impact on this in the supply chains or sustainability? Because sometimes I feel like health and sustainability can sometimes be disconnected and competing for each other. We need to eat more quinoa because it's going to be more protein, but the planet cannot take growing more quinoa. So any thoughts on that, on connecting this new forward with personalized nutrition, but keeping a mind on sustainability?
I don't know if I see them, at least right now, in terms of competing. I guess what my biggest concern with as kind of some of these new types of products develop is, are they at the appropriate dosage and quality for an individual consumer? And that's very, kind of dependent on the safety and quality of your supply chain. So that's where I would be more concerned in terms of, these ingredients or foods not being at the right dosage and quality for an individual and maybe being kind of having claims overextended.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. It feels like the food industry is sort of connecting with the medical industry with clinical trials and getting that stamp of good quality and, actually delivering what it says in the box. Okay, that's interesting. So trust and transparency in that sort of supply chain is something you see, Tommy. What about you, Emma? Do you see any potential issues?
Yeah, trust and transparency in the end of the day. I mean, what you see on the box, because personally, I always check the ingredients. I check the calories on the back of the package. And I always think to myself, you can always put ingredients and you can put the caloric intake, but is it really correct? Do I really trust what is on the packaging here? Because I know in EU, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's possible that you can change the caloric intake on some of the products. I mean, you can't put whatever, but it's not maybe 100% controlled the way we would prefer. And in the US, for example, you can round up or you can round down the calories on the packaging, which in the end of the day, I mean, the trust and transparency will take a hit.
I did not know that. Rounding with calories, that's a new one on me. Okay, I'm going to
in the US, they can say even if the calories are 92, let's say, they can put 90.
Every couple helps, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's only 2 calories, but if you sum it up during a day or a month, it's a lot of calories.
And there's probably something psychological there as well, isn't there? They've probably realised that there's a level where if you go over it, people think, well, that's a lot. But if you stay under it, it feels, okay, that's okay to have. So, that's interesting. So we've spoken a lot about the positives, and there's obviously some sort of issues as well that we've discussed. But in terms of getting consumers to adopt this and really embrace personalized nutrition. So what are the key considerations for getting people on board with it all? I'm just kind of listening to you both talking, and there's so much to this. It could, for example, be seen by consumers as being quite complex, and therefore people will say, it's just too complicated. It takes too much time. This is not for me. How do we kind of overcome these sort of barriers? Tommy, maybe you've got a view.
Yeah, I think it's really contingent on personalized nutrition companies' business model and go-to-market strategy. Honestly, I think going purely direct to consumer and asking them to pull out hundreds of dollars out of their pocket isn't a sustainable business model. We've seen companies like that fail. So what I'm really excited about more of kind of the B2B2C, business to business to consumer way to get, to consumers. So for example, through your healthcare practitioner. So when you go to a doctor for a checkup, you could actually get access to some sort of personalized nutrition program that way, or through, large corporations and wellness programs, getting it that way. And ideally having it subsidized in some way, shape or form to help defray that out-of-pocket cost. So I think that's really the biggest barrier that we need to get over in terms of going from niche to mainstream for personalized nutrition is those paths to get to the consumer.
That's really interesting. And that sounds like a quite more of an equitable model, because I can see something as personalized nutrition being quite expensive and not being affordable by all.
Yep.
So that's a really interesting model. So what about you, Emma? Like, what are some of the barriers that, you must be dealing with this all the time because you deal directly with consumers. So what are some barriers that BeYou faces, and what are some strategies you've taken?
Yeah, so I think once again, like we mentioned before, to put a human in the loop, a platform or someone professional, a nutritionist or someone controlling this, because I see the B2C market can easily spiral out of control. And if companies going B2C, how would you be able to control exactly what it is that they're selling directly to the consumers? How will you be able to make sure that we're not risking the challenges that we've mentioned here previously with obsession and the mental health aspect of it all? Is it really healthy for users to have these products available open on the market, or is it better to go, like Tommy is also mentioning, to B2C way of it all, I think?
So there needs to be some kind of accountability within all of this, it seems. And Tommy, you mentioned that you've seen some companies have tried to go the B2C route and have failed. I'm quite interested in that. So I think we were looking at the Lux website, and you were saying that in 2019, 3 prominent companies failed, despite each being backed by more than $50 million and having really strong tech foundations. So is that the reason? Is because they tried to go direct to consumer, or why else would they have failed, do you think?
Yeah, at least in part for 2 of them. So for Habit and Arivail, I think the most obvious one is with Arivail. And it's interesting, their founders and management teams have been fairly transparent since they shut down the reasons why they ceased operations. But a lot of it had to do with, they were going direct to consumer. It was extremely expensive. And they changed their kind of product structure and pricing multiple times, but which in and of itself was not helpful. But the last time I had checked, when they were around in like 2018 or 2019, the baseline offering just to get your foot in the door was shy of $1,000 USD. That's incredibly expensive.
Wow.
Yeah, for them, it was very challenging in a lot of ways, but primarily, just based on them trying to go direct to consumer in that fashion.
Okay. And Emma, you've obviously BeYou seem to be going from strength to strength. So what's your secret sauce here? What, if you're a startup entering in this space, what is it that you're doing so well that means that you're continuing to grow like this?
I think I want to come back to the wellness pyramid again, that we have a holistic approach and that we're not focusing only on one aspect of health. We're focusing on all aspects. And obviously, you can always dig deeper and you can go into more detail of each and every aspect, but you will need all 3 parts of the triangle, the movement, nutrition, and mental health, for it all to work out in the end of the day. And I think this is our key to success.
Love that. Congrats.
Yeah,
thanks.
No, that sounds great. I'm becoming a big believer that this should be something that's prescribed on the NHS or the healthcare system.
Yeah.
More prevention and less focus on the treatment. Yeah, brilliant. I love it. So thank you both. We're nearly out of time today, but we still have some final big picture questions here. So what do you think is going to have the biggest impact on getting everyone healthy? Emma.
Can I come back to the wellness triangle again? I don't want to be repetitive yet.
It's all about the triangle.
Do it.
Yeah.
All about the triangle. Yeah.
No, I think, wellness triangle aside, but I think what we hope, let's say, for the future is for corporates and brand owners to also take more responsibility. We can only reach as many people as a platform, but on our own, but with the help of corporates or brand owners, I think we could reach even more people. And obviously our objective is for people to be as healthy as they can be. And if corporates and brand owners would take more responsibility, both for their customers and employees, to be more healthy, I think this could be a door opener for many possibilities and for people to be more healthy in general.
Definitely.
That's a good point.
And Tommy, what do you reckon? Is this just a question of cost? Do we just bring this down to a low price point so that everybody loves this, or is this something else?
It's definitely a big part. I mean, kind of my 3 A's that I think of, affordability, accessibility, which I had mentioned before, but then also actionability. And then, having a solution that touches on all 3, and then, being able to seamlessly integrate with the consumer's, daily lifestyle. I mean, that's really the holy grail that's going to create a tipping point. So maybe an impossible task, but hopefully we can get there.
And I think the answer to that comes back to the wellness triangle. I think that's a really great model.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for that. Thank you both. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today. I mean, what a huge topic and what a fascinating space. So thank you very much. What's the next big thing you are focusing on in each of your companies? So Emma, what's kind of next coming up for BeYou?
We want to scale and obviously improve our product. As a product manager, we're always looking for what's the biggest next thing in especially for apps. I mean, developing an app, anything is possible. Basically, all you need is budget and time. But I think definitely keeping inside the wellness triangle and going deeper into each side of the triangle and see how we can personalize the experience even more for the users. Personalized nutrition, inside fitness, mental health, how we can improve and how we can provide consumers with more personalized content, which will help them to reach optimal health.
Thanks, Emma. And what about you, Tommy? What's next for you and Lux?
Yeah, a couple different things. In terms of technology, connecting the dots between different kind of types of data, like I was talking about before, biomarkers, genetics, microbiome, so on and so forth. Business model, seeing those companies that are kind of tap into kind of intermediary channels to get to consumers, whether that's employers, insurers, even it could be healthcare practitioners. And then third, which I don't think we touched on, at least maybe alluded to with, the likes of DSM and Nestle making a lot of investments and even acquisitions. How do they kind of aggregate and put the pieces together themselves to kind of create this personalized nutrition portfolio for consumers? Because I think right now they've just kind of made all these one-off bets, but how do you, I'm curious to see how they put it all together.
Great.
Yeah, definitely an interesting growing space. So for our listeners, where can they go for more information? Where can they go and get the app?
They can get more information on beyouapp.com.
Perfect. And Thomas, where can listeners go to find out more information about some of the stuff you spoke about today?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we have Lux Research. We have a blog, it's free to the public. So that's a great way to stay on top of what we're researching and discussing. And then our LinkedIn page. I would say those are the 2 best places.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much for that.
Fantastic. Well, in which case, it's just left to me to say thank you both for your time today. Like I say, a fascinating conversation and really looking forward to seeing how this space grows. And I'll be definitely watching both of your companies a lot more closely. I'm definitely going to get that app as well, Emma. So I'm coming to you. Cool. So thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thanks once again to Tommy and Emma. This has been the Food Fight podcast. As ever, if you'd like to find out more, head over to the EIT Food website at www.eitfood.eu or hit us up on Twitter at EITFood. And if you haven't already, please hit the follow button so you never miss an episode. That's it for now. Thanks for listening, everyone.